With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. President Trump welcomed religious leaders to the White House today to observe the annual National Day of Prayer.
During a Rose Garden ceremony, the president said the country has a proud religious heritage.
Prayer has always been at the center of American life because America is a nation of believers.
He paid tribute to the late Reverend Billy Graham, whose granddaughter Sissy Graham Lynch prayed for the president, vice president, and all of the nation's leaders.
That you would give them your wisdom to know what is right and then give them the courage to do it.
The president also announced the creation of a faith-based office. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Police in Nashville, Tennessee say there's been a shooting as a result of a dispute at the Opry Hills Mall. One person has been critically injured and has been taken to the hospital. The suspect is in custody. Local media say the police have established a perimeter around the mall, which is near the famed Grand Ole Opry. One of President Trump's attorneys has made a surprising admission that seems to contradict the president. Constitutional law expert Jonathan Turley says the White House had to change the narrative on the Stormy Daniels payout.
I think that the White House believed that it had to take the hit at some point to change the president's account, and it just took that hit. That calculation is based clearly on the view that Trump supporters really seem immune from these types of contradictions, that they will remain loyal to him.
Iran's foreign minister is defending his country's nuclear deal in a YouTube video, his latest defiant response to President Trump's threat to withdraw from the agreement. Mr. Trump has signaled that he will withdraw by next week if the deal isn't renegotiated. But Iran's Mohammad Javad Zarif says there will be no renegotiation on a deal that he says Iran has already implemented in good faith. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 5 points, the Nasdaq dropped 13. This is SRN News. The Southern Poverty Law Center strikes again.
The left-wing organization has a habit of listing Christian and conservative organizations on its list of hate groups, usually for their opposition to the homosexual agenda. Now Amazon is using that designation as an excuse for kicking Alliance Defending Freedom and other faith-based organizations off the Amazon Smile fundraising program. Also on the SPLC's hate group list, the American Family Association and the Traditional Values Coalition. Michael Harrington, SRN News.
Lawyers for Louisiana hope to revive a law requiring that doctors who perform abortions have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals. Supporters of the measure say abortion doctors need to be able to admit patients to a hospital within 30 miles in case of medical complications. A federal district judge in Baton Rouge blocked enforcement of the law. Now a 3-judge panel of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans is considering that matter. This is SRN News. NASA will launch a Mars exploration mission this weekend to study the core of the red planet.
It's been 6 years since the last NASA landing on Mars. This time it will be a robot acting like a geologist, digging deeper than ever before on the red planet. The Mars InSight spacecraft is set to launch this weekend from Vandenberg Air Base in California. The lander has a slender probe designed to burrow nearly 16 feet into the Martian soil. It will take the planet's temperature and also its pulse through a quake-measuring seismometer. This is a joint mission involving U.S. and European space agencies. The InSight is set to launch early Saturday. I'm Jackie Quinn.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has voted to expel Bill Cosby and Roman Polanski from its membership. Its Board of Governors met Tuesday night and voted on their status in accordance with their recently revised standards of conduct. More details at srnnews.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, May 3rd, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.54 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,317 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $39, and the average price of Bitcoin is $9,233. Antiwar.com reports the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has issued an assessment Tuesday addressing Israeli allegations of a secret Iranian nuclear program. The UN watchdog says there's no credible indication of any Iranian activities after 2009. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a presentation on Monday intended to give President Trump a justification for killing the P5+1 nuclear deal with Iran. Netanyahu's evidence, however, centered on research conducted before 2003 and which was well known. Netanyahu tried to present the old research and then conclude that more secret activities are ongoing. The IAEA, however, has a level of access within Iran unrivaled by any other safeguards agreement in the world. That access means claims of a whole additional secret program aren't particularly credible and has led European countries to warn killing the P5+1 deal would threaten that access. Iranian officials have also denied Israeli allegations of an ongoing program, saying Netanyahu can't stop crying wolf. That seems to be the general consensus across most of the world, though President Trump is still expected to withdraw the U.S. from the nuclear deal and will likely use Netanyahu's allegations as political cover for the international backlash.
Zencash is an end-to-end encrypted system with zero-knowledge technology over which communications, data, or value can be securely transmitted and stored. With over 7,500 secure nodes, Zencash has one of the most distributed node systems of any cryptocurrency. Zencash is a platform for cryptocurrency and communications built by voluntarists for voluntarists, with the ideas of voluntary interaction being written into the white paper no less than half a dozen times. Learn more at zencash.com.
UPI reports 2 black men arrested at a Starbucks settled with the city of Philadelphia for $1 each and an undisclosed settlement with the company. The mayor's office on Wednesday said the city also agreed to a request by Rayshawn Nelson and Dante Robinson to set up a $200,000 program for young entrepreneurs in public high schools. In a separate settlement with Starbucks, they will receive a financial settlement as well as continued listening and dialogue between the parties, according to the company in a statement. The attorney for the men was not available for comment. City spokesman Mike Dunn said 2 weeks after the incident, the 2 men have released the city and its employees from any and all claims. Nelson and Robinson will not receive any money from the high school program, but will serve on a committee to establish and award the grants. Mayor Jim Kenney said in a statement, rather than spending time, money, and resources to engage in a potentially adversarial process, Rayshawn Nelson and Dante Robinson approached the city and invited us to partner with them in an attempt to make something positive come out of this. This agreement is the result of those conversations, and I look forward to seeing the fruits of their efforts in the coming months and years. The city said the money will come from its finance department budget. The city police commissioner apologized, and Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson called the arrest reprehensible.
For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals. Gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. They don't feed the banks. They're Bitcoin preferred and have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports Iowa's Republican-controlled legislature passed the most restrictive abortion ban in the United States on Wednesday, outlawing the procedure after a fetal heartbeat is detected, often at 6 weeks, and before a woman realizes she is even pregnant. The Senate voted 29-17 to pass the House of Representatives approved bill, according to the legislature's online voting tallies. The bill now goes to Republican Governor Kim Reynolds, an abortion opponent who had not said publicly whether or not she would sign the bill into law. Opponents of abortion aim to land the question back in front of the nation's top court, where they believe the 5-4 conservative majority could sharply curtail abortion access or ban it outright. Republican State Senator Rick Bertrand said, "We created an opportunity to take a run at Roe v. Wade 100%. Becca Lee, spokeswoman of Planned Parenthood of the Heartland, called the legislation an intentionally unconstitutional ban on 99% of safe legal abortions designed to challenge Roe v. Wade. The Iowa bill requires any woman seeking an abortion to undergo an abdominal ultrasound to screen for fetal heartbeat. If one is detected, healthcare providers are banned from performing the abortion." This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
USA Radio News.
Today at the White House press briefing, things got a little testy when one of the reporters asked Sarah Sanders if President Trump would rather sit down with Kim Jong-un or Bob Mueller. Let's take a listen to her response.
I certainly think that the president feels like stopping a nuclear war and helping protect the safety and security of people across the globe would certainly be the number one priority of the president of the United States.
Today, former Fed Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan joined Fox Business to talk about the economy and entitlements.
When you look further down the road, the demographics are against us. The most productive people in the economy are retiring. The basic structure of productivity growth is being suppressed by the huge increase in entitlements.
This is USA Radio News. With the latest in the ups and downs of the first-time jobless claims, here's USA Radio Network's Chris Barnes.
The Labor Department reporting that first-time jobless claims filed last week were up by 2,000 from the previous week, which is less than what experts expected. They had predicted that 224,000 first-time claims would come in, when in fact the number was 211,000. The steepest increases in claims were in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania. For USA Radio News, I'm Chris Barnes.
The Boy Scouts of America is changing the name of one of its iconic programs after 108 years. The program will now be known as Scouts BSA starting February of 2019. You can count speaker, author, and commentator on cultural issues Matt Walsh as someone who's not too happy with this new move.
If we're concerned with the kind of moral formation of boys and making boys into men, well, then you need to separate them from girls and give them a different sort of experience.
Once again, this is USA Radio News. Some South Florida police officers found a unique way to mark National Day of Prayer. As we hear from USA Radio Network's Chris Barnes.
Hoping to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community with prayer, officers from about a dozen agencies taking part in an event called Prayer with a Cop. Drivers invited to pull up, roll down their window, receive a prayer, and then be on their way. It follows some recent tragic violence against police officers, including the murders of 2 sheriff's deputies as they were simply eating lunch at a Chinese restaurant in North Florida. For USA Radio News, I'm Chris Barnes.
A jagged crack suddenly appeared on a window aboard a Southwest Airlines flight yesterday. It startled passengers and forced the pilot to divert the plane to Cleveland, where it made a safe landing. Leah Gabriel is a former Navy pilot and airline expert. She explains why this isn't that big of a deal.
Well, first of all, I want to mention that they did not actually declare an emergency. It was considered an emergency landing. But if the pilots felt as though they needed to declare an emergency, in other words, they needed priority handling to get priority handling to a runway, then they would have declared an emergency. It's important for people to know that things like this do happen. Cracked windows are not that unusual when it comes to airlines, and they have redundant systems. It's very different from a blunt trauma like what happened when that piece of the engine basically came through the window a couple weeks ago. So this is not as scary as it may seem to passengers.
For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
Mall shooting, Trump and Daniels. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. A 22-year-old man is dead, his suspected shooter in custody after shots were fired inside Opry Mills Mall in Nashville today. People who were in the mall headed for the exits. Others hid in stores and restrooms. Police say the suspect put his weapon on a counter at a ticket booth, told the ticket taker he wanted no further trouble. President Trump acknowledges his attorney, Michael Cohen, was reimbursed for making a $130,000 hush payment to porn actress Stormy Daniels in the days before the 2016 election. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says she didn't know about it until she heard Rudy Giuliani during a TV interview.
The first awareness I had was during the interview last night.
A cocaine possession charge against actress Rose McGowan sent to a Virginia grand jury after a judge found probable cause. McGowan, one of the first women to accuse disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein of sexual assault, has suggested the coke might have been planted by people hired by Weinstein. I'm Tim McGuire.
An attempt to get in front of a payment to a porn star could be a setback.
A potential sign of goodwill from North Korea. Cosby and Polanski are banished by the Academy. This is Reuters Now.
President Trump's first public admission on Thursday that he reimbursed his personal lawyer Michael Cohen the hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels, raising new questions about potential violations of campaign finance law. Trump's acknowledgement of the payment on Twitter comes after Rudy Giuliani said it broke no laws because it was not drawn from Trump campaign funds. But Reuters legal correspondent Jan Wolf says it's not that simple.
The statements by Giuliani could arguably make it seem like this payment to Stormy Daniels was not a contribution, but it raises a different question of whether it was a loan. The federal election laws require campaigns to disclose all their campaign expenditures on disclosure forms, including loans. So the statement that the president reimbursed Cohen raises that question of whether this was an undisclosed loan in violation of federal election law, and potentially also a statute that prohibits lying to the government.
Giuliani told Fox News' Sean Hannity on Wednesday night that because the payment was not campaign money and funneled through a law firm, there is no campaign finance violation. But in an interview on Fox and Friends Thursday morning, Giuliani said of the alleged affair, quote, "Imagine if that came out on October 15th, 2016, in the middle of the last debate with Hillary Clinton." And Wolf says that remark strongly suggests the payment could have been campaign related.
Rudy Giuliani's statement on Fox and Friends that the revelation would have impacted the election seems to undermine the president's case and really bolster exactly what the president's critics are saying, that this payment just days before the election was intended to influence its outcome.
Trump told reporters in April he did not know about the payment to Daniels made the month before the 2016 election or the source of the money.
No, I don't know.
But in a series of tweets on Thursday, Trump said the funds were part of a private agreement that involved money that had nothing to do with the campaign. Giuliani stressed on Thursday that the payment was a personal rather than campaign matter to protect the president's family, and that Trump did not know the details of the arrangement until about 10 days ago.
Expectations mounting on Thursday that North Korea would soon release 3 American prisoners as a show of goodwill ahead of an unprecedented U.S.-North Korea summit. White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders said she could not confirm details, but that Washington was cautiously optimistic about its ongoing talks on the release.
We certainly would see this as a sign of goodwill.
Reuters' John Herskowitz, who was chief correspondent in South Korea for 6 years, covered a number of these prisoner captures and releases.
North Korea has released every American it's held after the Korean War. This sort of thing in North Korea's domestic media is played up as a show of North Korean strength and benevolence. They will be able to spin it in such a way to show that their pursuit of nuclear weapons, their buildup of their ballistic missile arsenal, has caused the U.S. to come begging for a peace deal, and to show the gratitude for the U.S., understanding that North Korea is a nuclear power on par with them. They will release the 3 Americans held.
The 3 men who may be released are Korean missionary Kim Dong-chul, Kim Sang-duk, who spent a month teaching at the foreign-funded Pyongyang University of Science and Technology before he was arrested in 2017, and Kim Hak-song, who also taught at the same university. But prisoner releases in the past haven't always gone smoothly. The parents of a U.S. college student, Otto Warmbier, who died last year soon after being released from captivity in North Korea, have sued Pyongyang over their son's death, saying he was, quote, brutally tortured and murdered. Speaking at the UN on Thursday, Warmbier's parents lashed out at North Korea.
When he was of no value to them, they essentially sent him home to our family in a body bag. It's not changed. North Korea hasn't changed.
Warmbier's death last year was a low point in relations between the U.S. and North Korea, but after last week's meeting between Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in, things are looking much rosier, with the two pledging to achieve complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula.
The United States will have to decide whether to finally abide by its obligations.
Iran's foreign minister on Thursday said America's demands for changes to a multinational nuclear agreement were unacceptable ahead of a looming deadline that could make or break the landmark deal.
Let me make it absolutely clear once and for all. We will neither outsource our security, nor will we renegotiate or add on to a deal we have already implemented in good faith.
U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that unless the parties to the accord fix what he calls terrible flaws in the deal by May 12th, he will refuse to extend sanctions relief on the Islamic Republic.
So we'll see what happens. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, but a lot of people think they know. And on or before the 12th, we'll make a decision.
White House sources this week told Reuters that Trump has all but decided to withdraw from the agreement. What could come next is unclear. Reuters Foreign Affairs editor Yara Bayoumi.
This is actually a pretty murky area. There isn't a clear-cut avenue here of what happens come May 12 and Trump decides that he's not going to renew these waivers. Essentially, there are a couple of avenues within the mechanism of the Iranian nuclear deal that allows the different parties to try and come to some sort of agreement, and so that gives the Americans and Europeans a little bit more time to try and see if there's another fix.
Iran has made clear it is unwilling to renegotiate the terms of the deal. The 2015 pact struck between Iran, the U.S., and 5 major world powers lifted international sanctions on the Islamic Republic in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear program. And monitors from the United Nations International Atomic Energy Agency have repeatedly said Iran is cooperating with the terms of the deal.
Powerful hail and rainstorms killed at least 78 people in northern India on Wednesday. Scores more were injured as the storms tore through parts of Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh, a region that's home to the Taj Mahal. As many as 36 people died in the district of Agra alone. Structures falling over in the wild weather were believed to be the cause of many of the deaths. The storm also leaving a trail of dead livestock, uprooted trees and broken electricity poles.
A scheme to cheat on smog tests could land a former auto executive in federal prison. U.S. prosecutors charged Volkswagen's ex-CEO Martin Winterkorn with conspiracy to defraud the United States. The indictment, unsealed Thursday, accuses Winterkorn of wire fraud and violating the Clean Air Act from at least May 2006 through November 2015 by using illicit software that allowed VW diesel vehicles to cheat smog tests. Reuters correspondent David Shepardson.
This indictment, in part, is really more symbolic to send a message to corporate wrongdoers around the world that the United States is going to try to hold people accountable at the highest level. And it's in stark contrast to other cases involving big auto companies where senior executives were not charged.
U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a statement that the charges allege, quote, Volkswagen's scheme to cheat its legal requirements went all the way to the top of the company. Winterkorn last year told German lawmakers he had not been informed of the cheating early and would have halted it had he been aware. But the indictment alleges Winterkorn was informed of VW's diesel emissions cheating in May 2014, and in July 2015, he agreed with other senior executives to continue.
The Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences on Thursday voted to expel Bill Cosby and Roman Polanski. In a short statement, the Academy said, quote, it continues to encourage ethical standards that require members to uphold the Academy's values of respect for human dignity. Cosby and Polanski are the first known members expelled for violating a code of conduct the Academy adopted in December, following a surge of accusations of sexual harassment within the entertainment industry. Cosby was known as America's dad for his fatherly role in the 1980s family comedy The Cosby Show. More than 50 women came forward in recent years to accuse the actor of drugging and raping them. He was convicted last week of sexual assault and faces up to 30 years in prison. A representative for Cosby did not respond to a request for comment. Academy Award-winning film director Roman Polanski lives in France and fled the United States after pleading guilty to having sex with a 13-year-old girl in 1977. A lawyer for Polanski told Reuters, quote, it's just shocking that the Academy would expel someone without a fair hearing. They're in panic mode or something, I guess. They didn't give him a chance. Polanski and Cosby are two of only 4 members known to have been expelled by the Academy. Producer and mogul Harvey Weinstein was kicked out in October after several women accused him of decades-long abuse, revelations that kick-started the hashtag #MeToo movement. Weinstein denies having non-consensual sex with anyone. Actor Carmine Caridi was expelled in 2004 for distributing copies of film screeners sent to Academy members.
You're up to date. Check back later as stories develop.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
End of an era in Dallas. I am Keith Irizarry. Jason Witten has retired after 15 seasons in the league. Will take on the role as analyst on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Today he held a press conference and he was emotional.
It has been said, whether right or wrong, better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late. The man who insists on seeing the perfect clearness before he decides, he never decides. Accept life, and you cannot accept regret. After much self-reflection, prayer, and faith, today I've decided that his time has come for me to pass the torch to the next generation of Dallas Cowboys and retire from the National Football League.
And he retires second all-time in receptions, second all-time in receiving yards, and Pro Bowl appearances amongst all tight ends. Some other breaking news today, the Falcons agree on a 5-year extension with QB Matt Ryan. It's a new benchmark at $30 million a year. $100 million of that is guaranteed. The Eagles exercise their 5th-year team option for head coach Doug Peterson. More breaking news, it is being reported that the Knicks have hired David Fizdale as their new head coach, reportedly on a 4-year deal. Steve Kerr confirms as well that Steph Curry will start Game 3 versus the Pelicans. On the NBA hardwood, today and tonight, Cavs and Raptors in game number 2. Sixers and Celtics also game number 2. On the diamond this afternoon, the Braves throttled the Mets, and it was the youngster going yard.
Action begins in the top of the 5th inning. First pitch swinging. Acuna hits one deep down the left field line, streaking through the sky and into the second level. And Ronald Acuna belts a home run deep out of the ballpark. Left fielder Cespedes didn't even move, didn't even turn around.
Braves Radio Network on the call. Final score 11-0. I'm Keith Irizarry. It's NBC Sports Radio and the NBC Sports Radio mobile app.